you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End of discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
Welcome to another episode of Dad is Not a Noun. My name is Ishmael, changing the narrative for men of color fatherhood, as well as changing the narrative on the things I care about. And today, on this special on this special Dad is Not a Noun Christmas Eve edition, I have a special guest with me. What they're doing as an organization is amazing. I love their theme. They come to a place to not save, but to collaborate and learn. And what they're doing is they're going around the world to help with the needs of children with disabilities, which is important. It's a very underserved population of children across the world that's not served, and they do amazing work around the world. And I'm truly honored to have this guest on. She is the founder and CEO of Smiles Up for Speech, Sandy Dorsey. Thank you for coming on, Sandy Dorsey.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And sorry for the mishap, because it's an organization I work with called the Real Dads Network, and it was just it just hit me, and so I apologize.
I love it. More dads.
But yeah, thank you for coming on. The first question I ask all my guests, because I'm all about mental health. I'm a big component about mental health, because I believe if you can't pour into yourself, you can't pour into other people. So how's your heart at this moment?
Oh, my heart is full. My heart is full, and I'm truly grateful. It's a good day today. I feel that I'm back home, and and that's really nice. And where I am right now, I just had some hot chocolate and some cookies, and grateful not to be in a place where I feel I'm starting to wind down. And I kind of had a little bit of a hectic end of November, and so I'm winding down a bit, and it feels good.
And you stretch yourself so thin doing great work and with your volunteers. I'm gonna phrase it back to you. Like, how do you pour into yourself so you can help other people?
That's a good question, and something that I definitely have to focus on, finding a balance. And one of my good friends and colleagues just 2 days ago, when I wanted to add another program on for next summer in Tanzania, he said, "Are you sure this isn't too much for you with everything that you're already doing?" And I took a step back and I said, "It is too much." So, you know, it's a daily process of every time someone, approaches me with another program or another need, and I want to say yes to everything, to really look at all the things that I already have that I'm doing and that I want to do well and want to, give my all into all the areas to make sure. And I was just speaking at a conference 2 weeks ago in Seattle, and I had just come from a 23-hour flight from Zanzibar and this huge meeting on this international issues board that I'm on. And the The first day of the conference, by around 2 o'clock, I was so exhausted. I had to wrap up the table. We had a table where we were presenting, put the things under, and I called my team and I said, I have to wrap up the table. I won't be able to go to the reception tonight. Please handle the reception. I have to sleep. And I slept for 10 hours because I also had to present again 2 days later. And, that was the first time I ever did something like that. And the old me wouldn't have. I would have somehow just gone until exhaustion, until I collapsed. But that was a good sign for me, especially as I'm getting so much busier than I could have ever imagined, to say, to do those check ins with myself, because I also want to be enjoying the work, during this journey. And especially at the beginning, I was barely sleeping, my hair was getting thin. It's like my nonprofit consultant was like, you have no life, but it's just my passion, my purpose, it's my life. And it is important to really look at exactly all the things that you're doing. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, no
I think
problem.
it's important, especially for new founders, because you could just go and not stop.
No, definitely, definitely. And then have you found value in the word no? Because again, you're saying yes, yes, yes. And like now you're starting
Mhm.
to see the power in no, because usually no has a bad connotation to it. Like, why you don't want to do it? Oh, you don't, you da 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 da, whatever. But for yourself personally, have you start seeing that value and just saying no, I just don't have it right now?
Absolutely. Because what do you have if you don't have yourself and take care of yourself? And people that know me, they already, they support all the no's. So there really isn't. If I say no, it's really because I cannot do more. So people do understand, and people say, I don't even know how you do all that you're doing. So the no's are easier now. They're definitely easier now. And I mean, they're they have to happen, and I don't think I understood it as much earlier on, but it's necessary.
Definitely. And just talk
Hmm.
about your journey of being this amazing citizen of the world. Like, when did you realize this is your passion, this is your purpose? I am a citizen of the world. Because sometimes as Americans, we put this wall. It's like, all right, my tunnel vision, I'm just American, American identity, all about America. But you like, you know what? There's parts of the world that children with disability are underserved. And I'm gonna stamp my passport and I'm going around the world, and I'm gonna go as a person that's gonna learn, um, and collaborate, and not come into that place of I'm gonna save everybody. I'm gonna save these disabled children.
Well, I always had a feeling that I didn't belong in America.
Mhm.
And, I don't say that much as a nonprofit, but I always wanted to be around the world and not necessarily here. I always felt that I was a part of the world more than feeling comfortable here. And everywhere that I go, I'm just welcomed, and it's just a different vibe, and it's community, which we have to work to create here in America, but it's natural in so many countries for everybody to work together. And I always wanted to be part of that. So, as a speech pathologist, a lot of times we're very isolated. You might be the only therapist in the school. I have a practice, but you're kind of isolated. And so in 2017, I mean, I've always focused on underserved communities, but I really wanted to do more. I felt there was more that had to be done. And even if it wasn't done in speech therapy. My first trip was to Cuba, and I had planned to bring toiletries and helpful things for the people there. And then I just started thinking about it, and I said, well, I have a skill that I can also share. So that's how it started with our first mission to Cuba. And because I treat people like family, and so even when I'm traveling outside of this work, I want to have dinners like with the people that live there. My first time really in a community that was more like closed off to the world, and this was at the Hopi Indian reservation in Arizona. And I went there, and there was no cameras. You couldn't do this. You couldn't. As soon as I walked up there, they said, "You're part of us. You can take pictures." They gave me gifts. I had dinner. I danced in the butterfly dance with them. They were throwing dollars. It rained. It was just, and that's the joy that I feel. Like that's what I'm in it for, that connection. And then being some kind of like gap bridger, like um there's a therapist in Kenya, and she wants to start a feeding clinic. So I'm going to find all the people that are doing pediatric dysphagia and that can help her, and then just put them together. All the things that I don't know, I'm going to find someone to connect to the other person so they have what they need. Because there's so many people that do want to share their skills, they don't know how to reach them. And so I'm just like, making that connection so that they'll have that information. So that just brings me so much joy, especially seeing people passionate about different things in different areas. And I'm like, whoa, this person is really, right now there's been an audiology focus for me where all of a sudden I just yesterday met with an audiologist. She called all these audiologists and got me 14 boxes of audiology books.
Wow.
And I said, she came with a list of 20 speakers and the topics that they would present. So this community is what it is because of the hearts of people that, you know, want to share. And then, of course, you have to weed out the ones that aren't genuine. And then you have to think about the collaborate, and learn and make sure people are realizing, and they realize it at the end of the mission. Oh, I think I might have got more from the community than I even gave.
Wow.
They're always like, though they made me smile, they made me look at my own life, they warmed my heart. Sometimes the people that they want to feel sorry for are happier than they are, you know? And that's something I had to learn about volunteers and why they join. They want to feel better a lot of times about their life or what they're doing. And a lot do it because, they want that feeling of giving. And there's a healthy side to it, and there's an unhealthy, toxic side.
Right.
And I did not know that when I first started.
Right.
And so knowing that has made things a lot easier because, like you mentioned earlier, the word no.
Definitely, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And then just talk about going to different countries. You connect with the inhabitants of the land. We talk about how we redefine what progress means, right? Because we live
Mm.
in this technology age where, because we have all the bells and whistles, we're far advanced than other countries that's not. Has your relationship with people across the world has kind of changed your perspective of what progression looks like?
Mm. I think that there are people around the world that have a sense of peace that a lot of people in this country will never have. And to me, that's the highest place and the highest goal, and that is success. If you have peace in your life, I mean, everybody thinks they can get all the things, and the more things they get, when they get this, they'll be happy. When they get that, they'll be happy. When all these ducks are lined up, they'll be happy. And you see people living very simple lives. I was in Mombasa about 2 months ago and met this gentleman. We went into a little hut. It was for him and his wife. He had all these all he owned was on this little table, and they had a little bed. When I tell you, we were in the village for 2 hours, and for 2 hours, he was smiling.
Wow.
You know, he wasn't complaining about what he didn't have. When this happens, he'll feel better. No, he wanted to show me how they catch mice in this wooden contraption. And, I met the person that if there's someone sick who they talk to, and he's showing me cashews in the trees, and they did a whole dance as a community. So you can have all the technology in the world. I mean, look what Instagram is doing to this world. People don't know how to connect anymore.
Yeah.
So people are living their lives based on a machine, if they're going to be happy that day or not.
Right.
So I like sitting with, the elders of the village, where they're playing their instruments and they're having meals together as a community, sometimes all from the same big, huge dish. In Senegal, you would have 15 people on one huge, giant, flat plate,
Wow.
you know. And then we're here with people have all this money sitting by themselves, lonely and sad. And you know what? What was really telling? When was it? I forget where I was. Oh, in Ghana.
Mm.
This friend of mine said, "What is depression? Are there people there that really want to that they want to kill themselves and suicide? They don't understand. A lot of places don't understand this mental health component that we face every day because they're in a community with each other and they have more tight knit um, families. People are still there, many generations still living in that same community. So there's always someone to go to and talk to."
And I think that's important too because it goes back to it definitely takes a village, not as well as to raise a child, but adults too. And you see
Yeah.
them come together and sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Each person has more than another person.
Mm-hmm.
They're all equal.
Yes. And then
That
having that respect from your elders and knowing that you can learn from them. And that's what I see too, lacking now. That people don't even, you don't think that a person that's older than you has something that they can share. They've lived an extra 30 or 40 years than you, but you know better.
mm,
Maybe you know more about technology or what's happening right now, but there's a spirituality that comes, with that wisdom and that life experience that maybe you can learn something from. And that's what scares me about young people today.
yeah, definitely. But do you see, like, when you talk about people volunteering, like, do you see young people volunteering, or is it more like, do you see there's a demographic when it comes to people who want to help and are willing to volunteer without expecting anything in return?
There's a mix. So we do have students to join. We have all age range, the whole gamut. I mean, most of if we have students, then they're more towards the end so that they can feel ready, you know. because we have so many different kinds of children that we support. So we do want anyone that does join to either be comfortable with a certain pace that we keep when we have our community clinics. I mean, we see 300 children during each mission usually. So being comfortable with that pace, being comfortable with maybe not knowing as much as they would like to know, for new therapists or students, as long as they're comfortable and willing to ask, if they need to. And then we have therapists with, you know, up to 40, 50 years experience. We had 2 summers ago.
And I love what you guys
Yeah.
do when you connect with the kids with disability. You don't look at them as um, you feel sorry for them. To me, what I see is you're unlocking their superpower that they never knew they had inside. Like, just talk about your involvement and interaction with the kids with disability.
Yeah. So the involvement has a lot to do with the parent too and the mother. So we have, so there was a child in Kenya, I'm thinking about Alvin, and his mother, she kept him in the home. So a lot of times in communities where there's that stigma, the mothers are keeping the children at home and they may not see the day of light. So she kept her child at home for 11 years because she had to change his shirt 6 times a day and she was embarrassed to bring him out. The community thought he was contagious. They were afraid of him. And we worked with him and Alvin. And next thing you know, I mean, Alvin has the biggest personality. He has so much personality. And next thing he's dancing with the other kids. He has speech, occupational therapy, and also feeding. He was only eating pureed food. He started eating crunchy food. He started requesting. Mom was concerned. She wanted to know when he was thirsty. That was the most important thing to him. She was very afraid. And we are parent centered. That's what the parent wants for the child, and that's what we focus on. And when the children have that freedom and know that they're in a safe place to really be themselves, and a lot of times they've been hidden, so they're not interacting with the community, even sometimes with the family. This YouTuber, she was telling me that her cousin has cerebral palsy, and they just let the little girl, sit in the corner. The rest of the family's eating and doing everything, but they're not focusing on her. So when we bring our teams and we have all our materials and involve the child in all the activities, they just soak it up. They're just like, give me more, you know? And that's what's fun too, because it's such a given here in America, to the point where sometimes the child's like, I don't want to go, or the moms might be like, I'm pulling him out, but they're like, oh, give me more. They're soaking it in. So we just all have such a great experience, with the children. They're so happy to see us. And it's just a back and forth where everybody's just having those, smile vibes.
Yes, yes. And so what I want to do is I want to play a video off your website, um, Project Ghana. So I want to play this video, and then I want you to talk about the Project Ghana and what's going to be coming up real soon in the new year.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, do you hear the volume or?
I don't.
Hold on 1 second. Let me. Oh, that's why. Let me rewind it.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, because I There we go. So let's start it from the
Okay.
beginning. All right, rewind. All right,
Okay.
let's play.
Okay.
My name is Paul, speech and language therapist at the Eastern Regional Hospital, also a volunteer for Star Minds. We are so grateful that Smart for Speech, in collaboration with Star Minds, Click African Foundation, have organized a training session for parents, carers, facilitators to be trained on the strategies to use with children with special needs, for that matter, communication disorders.
I'm Sandra Quayson, the director for Star Minds Ghana. We had more than 50 parents coming from different places to the center today for free screening, free assessment, free therapy, and free gifts. Smart for Speech has been very supportive of me in terms of practice, with resources, with mentoring, with all the kind of supports that they need to give me from 2019 till now. It was a great pleasure working again today with them at the Eastern region, which happens to be one of our biggest day today.
We are so grateful for Span for Speech for organizing such a great training session, for being able to bring so many speech therapies to the Eastern region today. Today, I can say that the whole world has moved to Koforidua because there is one in a kind. We only have 2 speech therapists in Koforidua, but today we have over 13 speech therapists, which is very great for us. And so we are so grateful for Smiles for Speech.
Smile for Speech is doing an amazing job in Ghana and needs to be supported everywhere they go.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank
Totally
you.
amazing. And I love. I messed up. I should have said, you know, we don't fix or save because you're telling the world that these kids are not broken.
Mm. Mhm.
So, like, talk about the project.
So we have our Ghana project, which we started in 2019. And in 2019, there were 6 students from a program that started in 2016. That was their first speech program. And they're now 50 therapists. So we've been part of that process of mentoring and supervising the students as they graduate. And Sandra Quayson was in the video, and she was an amazing, even when she was a student, you can just see, I mean, she has a 6 office private practice. She works with the Eastern Regional Hospital. And then Paul, she mentored Paul, and he's now full-fledged speech therapist. So we're there at her practice, you know, having that community clinic. And we have, our model is to have the parents learn the strategies that they can use with their children at home, and then they have their consultation, and then we have the parent, student, and any caregivers in that child's life. We invite them to see what we can do. So now we're using those strategies. And so even though we continue to be actively involved in Ghana, and I'm always in touch with Sandra, but they can take what they've learned from the training and in the session and continue on with that work. And then Sandra and Paul and her team will continue that work. So it's been a joy to watch the progress, from 2019 with Sandra as a student to where she is now, and to be part of that journey with the therapists, in Ghana and the students. So we had therapists from Trinidad, from all over the US, and they each have their specialty and skills. A lot of them have that their focus is autism. It depends on what programs we're working with. So if we're working with, in Peru, we were focused on voice disorders. So we have voice therapists. But in this case, it was mostly therapists that had that autism background.
Wow. And I'm looking at the numbers right here. Like 90% of the world's school age children with special needs are kept out of classrooms because little to no money is budgeted for their needs. 1 in 10 children around the world are currently living with a disability, where 80% of these individuals live in a developed country. 1.7 times greater chance of children with disability to be subject to violence for their peers without disabilities. But again, what you guys are doing is, again, you're unlocking their superpower. And instead of treating them like a victim, you're treating them like a victor. You can win. You just need those important tools for the parent and for the child to be a success, depending on what success looks to them, not to us, not through the American lens, but through their community.
Yes, and really knowing what it is that success is for them. So in the case of Alvin, I mean, Regina is so excited and felt so empowered. She has 150 mothers now. She goes into the village and she shows them Alvin. They say, well, what happened to Alvin? And they want to know. And then she teaches them what she's learned. So now if we have 13 therapists and we see 300 children, or we have 50 at each community clinic, and they go back and tell 20, parents, the impact is what it is when we're on the ground. But when that word spreads and these mothers feel, that extra boost of support, and now they're going to schools and saying, advocating for themselves, and they're going to the senators and they're going into the government and saying, I want to have services for my child, talking to teachers and saying, oh, I learned these things. My child is autistic. Can you help with these accommodations for my child in the classroom? It helps them to not feel helpless. And this is another one. Ella, her mom just messaged me and said, thank you so much. And she has a very supportive family, but in this village in Kenya, they really didn't have the means or know where to go. And she is just doing so well. I mean, and the parents, they don't care wherever they have to go to find reception. If we're doing, because we follow up with them, and we also do teletherapy, they will find the exact right spot under a tree, whatever they have to do, to continue. And this little boy, he used to have a big bite on his hand where he was biting his hand. And Arc Therapeutic, they donate these chewy sticks for us. And he's just, interacting more. And he lives in rural Ghana in Ho, where when they have mudslides, they can't come down from the mountain. And he just lives in this, like a bucket. And to see him now, and that's the thing, like a little bit goes a long way, because they'll take what they learned and start to incorporate it each day. and it's really a great experience too for volunteers to be part of that because they want to continue on, and we encourage them, with teletherapy to continue to um, offer more resources when the family's ready for it. And then having that um, program that's already built, they let us know, oh, would you be able to send us more chewy sticks for whoever, So it's like a big family that I get to be
And,
part of. And I'm grateful for it. I really am.
and it's just from someone from a distance a beautiful thing to see because this is needed in our world today is just doing it because you want to do it, not doing it because you feel like you're obligated to do it.
Mm.
Like right now, we're in the holiday season, and sometimes I often think, do people get gifts because they feel like, do they truly want to do it, or do they feel obligated to do it because of this commercialism, capitalism society that we live in, that we feel the pressure of giving. And that's what I
Mhm.
love about what you are doing and your team is doing is that you're giving because this is what you want to do. This is your passion. There's a difference from a passion and feeling obligated to do it. Those are two different things. And I think here in America, we don't see the difference between the two.
Mhm. That's true. I mean, and I think, what I realized about the people that volunteer and that genuinely want to give that support, I mean, it really comes from a higher place to say, this is what I'm doing and I'm feeling good about it and I'm choosing it. And because for me, I just wouldn't choose any other thing. So, it's just, there's nothing that I've done that's brought me more joy, and um, it's just nothing. And when they say, what would you do if you weren't getting paid for it? And it's like, I feel so grateful to have a purpose that makes me feel like it gives you meaning in life, you know, when you are doing it for because you want to. And that whole obligation it's just unhealthy the way the culture is for us here, that this gift giving thing that you feel like you have to do. It's really it's the culture.
Yeah. Yeah. I,
It's the culture, and that's what I realized so much being living away is the things that get indoctrinated for us from a very early age, and that's just been there, from the generation before and before that. And when I listen to stories about my mom and my grandmother, and how my grandmother went to buy the tree on the last day for 25 cents, and somehow she got that tree together and she got, the things that they needed. Even in that struggle, there's joy, there's beauty in it. You can have someone that has so little and they appreciate that little bit and they make so much out of it. And then you can have millions and all the cars and 50 trees and all of it, and then just be miserable. So I don't know. I mean, I hope that we can understand that one day in our country. But when the volunteers get to experience that and say, there's a little boy right now we're sponsoring. Every time I show people a picture of him, they just light up like they want to meet him. And they would never know, you would never know seeing him that he doesn't know if what his next meal will be.
right.
But you see him and he's so full of light.
Yeah.
And that's when the volunteers go and they don't know all the stories behind the children, but those children are like pouring into them, not even on purpose, but just because that's that light that they have inside them.
Yes, definitely.
So they're
And
just a
thank
blessing to everybody, you know?
Definitely. And I appreciate you bringing light to this conversation. So just talk about when does the trip begin, and how people can sign up for the trip, and what are the criteria they need to do to sign up to volunteer
So
for
the
the
trip, yes, it's July 27th to August 5th. It's in Ghana. We're focusing on northern Ghana, which is the area that's most in need. There's only one speech therapist there for all of northern Ghana. We focus on speech and occupational therapy, but we're going to have social workers, audiologists, special education teachers, nurses, behavioral specialists, anyone that's in a helping profession and wants to be part of supporting the community and these families and children. So we have our program, which is called Project Ghana, but we also partnered with Pepperdine University. So there's a certificate option. And with that one, there's classes that are virtual before the program, after, there's a reflection period. So there's two options that we have now. One that will lead to a certificate, and one where with that you're giving that service and still having that in-person immersion of the culture. We're gonna, visit the women that make shea butter and visit Mole National Park and, meet the king in Tamale and, really see how the community lives from day to day. So our project leader in Ghana, he's actually from Tamale. And so we won't be in the Accra region much. We'll be there for a day for a city tour, but most of our work will be right there in rural northern Ghana.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All those information and links will be in the description below. Again, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I always say to my guests, your time is your greatest commodity, and you spending time with me, I'm truly forever grateful. Thank you. We got to do this again. If you want to come back on and just talk about the trip before you go on the trip, or if you want to come back on and talk about the experience after trip, just let me know. You have a space
I
here.
love you. Oh,
Always.
thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank
This has been
you.
another amazing conversation here on the podcast. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Oh, before we end, how can people find you? I forgot about that. How can people find you? Social media
So,
wise, handle like that.
yeah, so the website is smilesforspeech.org. And then we're on Instagram under Smiles for Speech, Facebook Smiles for Speech, LinkedIn Smiles for Speech, and that's it. Yeah.
All right. Again, this is a amazing conversation. Everyone out there, have a happy Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Love you guys. Peace. All right, stay on for 1 second. Let me end the recording. All right, gonna end.